If you're doing retirement planning after 45, you need a different filter. I'll show you what generic advice to ignore, what to rethink, and what to prioritize first. Here's why the filter has to change. Almost everything you've read about retirement was written for a 28-year-old with 35 years to fix any mistake. Compound interest calculators, start now and let it ride articles, 5-step checklists, all of it assumes a runway you don't have anymore. That's not a punishment, though. It's a design flaw in how this advice gets written. The tax code, the contribution rules, even the math around Social Security, a lot of it gets more generous once you cross 45, and more generous still after 50. You just have to know which rules were built for you. The generic stuff floating around online was never sorted that way. It's one size fits all, and your situation stopped being generic the moment a mortgage, kids, or aging parents showed up. Picture the version of this that plays out for a lot of people. Late 40s, decent income, a mortgage, maybe 2 kids still at home, a 401k that grew but not nearly as much as the calculators promised back in your 20s. You Google how to catch up on retirement and get the same 15 tips everyone gets, regardless of age, income, or how many years they've actually got left to work with. The advice isn't wrong, it just was never sorted for you. So we're sorting it into 3 piles. What to throw out completely, what to rethink from the ground up, what goes to the top of your list starting this month.
Pile 1. What to ignore. First one. Save 15% of your income and you're on track. That number gets repeated everywhere, and it's not wrong exactly. It's a reasonable target if you started at 25 and let 3 decades of compounding do the heavy lifting. But if you're 47 and just now getting serious, 15% might not close the gap. It also might not be the right number for you, period, because a flat percentage ignores catch-up rolls that only kick in after 50. We'll get to those. For now, just notice, the 15% rule was never written with your birth year in mind.
Second one, subtract your age from 100 to figure out your stock allocation. This one's been repeated so long, people treat it like law. At 47, that math tells you to hold 53% stocks, no questions asked. But the people who actually model retirement portfolios for a living will tell you it's not one formula, it's a range, and it depends on how many years you have until you need the money and how you plan to spend it. Someone 45 to 55 with a long career ahead might comfortably sit in the 70 to 80% stock range. Someone closer to drawing the money down needs a very different mix. A subtraction problem can't capture any of that.
Third one, and this is the big one. Just cut your spending and invest more. Skip the lattes, cancel a subscription, brown bag lunch. None of that is bad advice exactly. It's just not sized to the actual problem. If you're carrying a mortgage, kids, maybe a parent who needs help, the gap between cutting a coffee habit and catching up on retirement is enormous. We're talking hundreds of dollars a month against a shortfall that might run into 6 figures. Spend less, save more sounds responsible and does almost nothing on its own, because it never tells you where the freed-up money should actually go. Throw those 3 out. Not because they're false, because they were never built for where you're standing right now, and applying them anyway just wastes years you don't have to spare. Pile 2. What to really rethink. Now the pile that matters even more. The stuff you've probably heard, but heard wrong, or heard in a form that doesn't fit your situation anymore. Rethink number 1. Debt versus investing. Most people treat this as either or. Pay off every debt first, then start investing. Or invest aggressively and ignore the debt entirely. Neither one is the actual rule. The real rule is about interest rate, not size, and definitely not feelings. If a debt sits above roughly 6%, attack it first, highest rate first, because nothing you're likely to earn in the market reliably beats that. If it's below that, and a lot of mortgages qualify, Let it sit while you invest, because your money will probably grow faster elsewhere over time. One exception overrides everything else on this list. Never skip your full employer 401k match to pay down debt faster. A 50 or 100% match is a guaranteed, immediate return that no debt payoff, even a credit card at 20%, can beat.
Rethink number 2, Social Security. Generic advice treats it like a check that shows up at 62 and you take it because it's sitting there. After 45, that's the wrong frame entirely. Every year you delay claiming past your full retirement age, up to age 70, your monthly benefit goes up roughly 8%, guaranteed, inflation-adjusted, paid for the rest of your life no matter what the market does in the meantime. Delay 3 years, from 67 to 70, and you're often looking at close to a 24% permanent increase in your monthly check.
That's not a maybe-it-works-out strategy. That's one of the closest things to a guaranteed win in personal finance. Most people never even run the numbers on it because they've been taught to think of Social Security as fixed instead of something you can plan around like any other account. Rethink number 3, your house. Generic advice treats your home as the place you live, full stop, an expense, not an asset. After 45, it's often the single largest number on your entire balance sheet, and how you handle it can move your retirement readiness more than another few years of contributions ever would. Downsizing to something smaller, relocating somewhere less expensive, even just knowing the equity exists as a reserve you could tap later, all of that counts toward the picture. You don't have to decide anything today. You do have to start counting it, because most people leave it completely off the page when they add up what they actually have. There isn't one right move here, and that's the point. Some people downsize and free up cash immediately. Some relocate somewhere cheaper and stretch the same retirement further. Some sell and rent instead, trading equity for flexibility. Some just leave it alone, treating it as a reserve they may never touch but always have. Generic advice skips this whole conversation because it assumes everyone's either renting forever or sitting on a paid-off house. Real life is somewhere in between. Pile 3. What actually goes first? Here's what to prioritize, in order, starting this month. Not someday, this month. First, capture your full employer match. If you're not contributing enough to get every dollar your employer offers, fix that before you touch anything else on this list. It's an immediate, guaranteed return before you've even picked a single investment. Leaving it on the table is about as close as you can get to turning down free money. Second, use the catch-up contribution system the way it was designed to be used. Starting at age 50, the IRS lets you put more into your 401k than younger workers can, up to $32,500 total in 2026. If you're between 60 and 63, there's an even larger super catch-up window that pushes the limit to $35,775 a year. These were built specifically for people in exactly your position, and most people never touch them, not because they can't afford to, because nobody ever told them the option exists. One catch worth knowing about right now. Starting in 2026, if you're 50 or older and earned over $150,000 in FICA wages last year, your catch-up contributions have to go into a Roth 401k specifically, not a traditional one. If your plan doesn't offer that option yet, that's a conversation to have with HR this week, not in December when it's too late to fix. Third, open or fund your HSA like it's a retirement account, not a medical junk drawer you forget about. It's the only account in the entire tax code where money goes in tax-free, grows tax-free, and comes back out tax-free for medical costs, and there's no deadline on reimbursing yourself. A receipt from a doctor's visit this year can be cashed in tax-free decades from now. For 2026, that's up to $4,400 if you have individual coverage, or $8,750 for family coverage, plus another $1,000 if you're 55 or older. Fourth, go to ssa.gov and pull your actual numbers. Not an estimate you saw in an article, not your neighbor's numbers,
your numbers, at age 62, at your full retirement age, and at 70, side by side. Most people are genuinely stunned by the gap once they see all three written down in front of them instead of guessing. Fifth, and this one gets skipped constantly, build a small professional team around this instead of carrying it alone. A fee-only financial planner, meaning someone paid by you, not by commissions on whatever they sell you, can model your actual numbers instead of a generic scenario from an article. Pair that with a tax preparer who thinks about planning ahead, not just filing once a year. That's not an extravagance reserved for complicated finances. At this stage, with catch-up limits, Social Security timing, and a house in the mix, it's closer to basic maintenance. That's the filter. Ignore the advice that was built for someone with 35 years left to fix things. Rethink debt, Social Security, and your house through the lens of what's actually true for your age, not what's true in general. And prioritize the employer match, the catch-up limits, the HSA, and your real Social Security numbers, in that order, because the order is part of what makes it work. None of this requires picking stocks or timing markets. It requires knowing which rules were actually written for you and starting with the ones that pay off first instead of the ones that just sound responsible. This isn't about doing everything on this list today. It's about picking the one thing you've been skipping past because you assumed it didn't apply to you. The match you're not fully capturing, the catch-up limit you didn't know existed, the Social Security number you've never looked up. Go check that one thing this week. That's the whole assignment. If this changed how you're thinking about your own numbers, subscribe. Everything on this channel is sized for where you actually are, not where a 25-year-old is. And hit the like button if that's the kind of thing you want more of. If you know someone who's been running on the generic version of this advice, send them this one. Odds are they need to rethink the same 3 things you just did.